to everyone who's joining us live. Thank you for joining another of our Facebook Live sessions. My name is Zoe Clark, I'm Self-Management Programme Officer, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Jaina Engineer, who is Knowledge and Evidence Manager at Crohn's and Colitis UK. Hi Jaina, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hi Zoe, thanks for having me here. Excited to be here and talking about Crohn's and colitis.
Brilliant, I think it'll be a really popular session. I think, because lots of people with axial SpA also have one of the conditions, so I think it'll be a really popular session, so appreciate your time today.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. So for anyone who's joining, I'll keep an eye on the questions and comments as Jaina's presenting, and we'll also have a Q&A session at the end as well. So if you have any questions, please do pop them in the comments and we'll go through them all at the end and answer everything. And also be great if you can share your experiences. If you have Crohn's or ulcerative colitis alongside your axial SpA, do feel free to share your experiences and share any advice for other people in the comments as well. Quite often we get a nice conversation going there in our live sessions where people are sharing what works for them.
Oh, that sounds great.
Okay, wonderful. So I'll just check, make sure we've got people joining us as well, to see if anyone said hello so far. Yeah, wonderful. We've got a few people joining us already. So hi everyone, thank you. So Jaina, are you happy if I hand over to you for your presentation and then we'll come back and have a chat and Q&A at the end?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks very much, Zoe. So hi everyone, as Zoe said, I'm Jaina. I work in the Knowledge and Evidence team at Crohn's and Colitis UK. I'm very grateful to Zoe and the team at NASS for giving us the opportunity to talk to you today about Crohn's and colitis, as it's really important to raise awareness of these conditions. As having axial SpA can make you a bit more likely to develop Crohn's or colitis, and I know from Zoe that lots of you have been asking about it. So I hope our chat today will help provide you with some helpful information. So I'd like to start off by showing you all a really short video which explains briefly what Crohn's and colitis are. So hopefully technology will be on our side and the video will be playing for you shortly.
Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, and microscopic colitis are all types of a condition called inflammatory bowel disease. They're lifelong conditions. Ulcerative colitis affects the large intestine. Crohn's disease is most likely to be found at the end of the small intestine, but can affect any part of the gut, from your mouth to your bum. It's not yet known what causes Crohn's and colitis, but over 300,000 people in the UK have it. That's more than the number of people with Parkinson's and MS combined. Not everyone with Crohn's and colitis will be affected in the same way. For many, but not everyone, their condition can cause diarrhea mixed with blood and mucus, tummy pain, extreme tiredness, and weight loss. Crohn's and colitis can also affect areas outside of the gut, causing problems like joint pain, mouth ulcers, and inflamed eyes. A lot of people can feel really isolated by their condition, which can lead to depression and anxiety. How someone is affected can change over time and can be different day to day. When symptoms are bad, it's usually referred to as flaring or being in a flare-up. When a person is feeling better and their condition is under control, it's known as being in remission. There are many different medicines available to help treat Crohn's and colitis. Not everyone responds to these in the same way, so it may take some time to find a treatment that's right for each person. For some people with Crohn's or colitis, surgery to remove part of their intestine is the best way to help them live well with their condition. At the moment, there's no cure for Crohn's or colitis, but with the right treatment and support, many people will be able to live life to the full and enjoy all the things they used to.
Thank you. So hopefully that gave everyone a good understanding of the conditions. That video was actually made a couple of years ago now, and we're thinking the number of people with Crohn's or colitis is actually more like 500,000 is what recent research is showing. So it definitely seems to be increasing from the number we've been saying previously. So to help explain a bit more about what Crohn's and colitis are, it might be helpful to start by explaining why the conditions happen in the first place. So much like axial SpA, when you have Crohn's or colitis, your immune system doesn't work properly. It normally protects you by destroying harmful substances, but in IBD, it can start attacking parts of the body which are not harmful, which can cause ulcers and inflammation in the gut. We don't know why this happens, but it's thought to be a mixture of genes and the environment. And at Crohn's and Colitis UK, we fund and support lots of research with the aim of understanding the causes of the conditions more. Have the next slide, please. Thank you. So Crohn's and colitis will affect everybody differently. You may already know someone with Crohn's or colitis, but it doesn't mean that their symptoms would be the same as what you would experience or what another person would experience. As they're called inflammatory bowel diseases, the symptoms that most people are aware of tend to be the symptoms around going to the toilet a lot. And while this is very common, it's by no means the only symptom of the conditions. Crohn's and colitis can affect almost every part of your body and every aspect of your life. So a lot of people experience things like joint pain, inflamed eyes, fatigue, and weight loss really commonly, and often as their first symptoms before gut symptoms even appear. And you may have noticed that I haven't put a number on how many times a person with IBD goes to the toilet on average, for example, and that's because it can really vary. So some scales will say if you're going more than 5 or 6 times a day, then that's counted as a more severe flare, but we do know some people could be going up to 30 times a day, for example, and some people even far less than that. So it's all about what's normal for you. So some of the symptoms on the previous slide are sounding a bit familiar to you. It might be a good time to start thinking about talking to your GP about your symptoms. So the NICE guidelines state that if you've had a change in bowel habit that's lasted for more than 6 weeks, you should be tested for Crohn's or colitis. So of course you can seek help sooner than that. We know it's not always easy talking about bowel problems, but the sooner you get help, the easier your condition will be to treat. We do know a lot of people delay seeking help because they feel their symptoms might be coming and going, they're having lots of really good days, or they might know someone else with Crohn's or colitis who, in their opinion, has far worse problems and struggles a lot more. But no matter how severe your symptoms are, if it's not normal for you, it's still really important to find out what's going on and not to normalize feeling this way. So when you go to the doctor, it can help to go prepared with a list of your symptoms and when they happen. And also if you've noticed if anything in particular seems to trigger them. Everybody is different, of course, but a very common triggers for Crohn's and colitis do seem to include things like stress and certain foods, although it is different for everyone. And it's always good to contextualize what's normal for you. So if you're going to the toilet 4 times a day, for example, it might not seem like a huge number, but if you only ever used to go once a day before, then this would, of course, be a cause for concern. We have a really informative webpage on our website for people who might be struggling a bit to get a diagnosis to explain the process, and the details of that are at the bottom of the screen there. So deciding to get help is the most important first step, and then you'll of course be wondering what will happen after that. So your GP should be doing a number of things like asking about your family and medical history. And you can absolutely tell them about the link between axial SpA and Crohn's or colitis. Don't be afraid to do that because it's not a given that all GPs will be aware of this link. Some have more of a understanding of these conditions than others. So it's really important that you mention that in your history because they can be related. You'll usually be offered a variety of tests like blood tests to check for inflammation and then stool tests to see specifically for gut inflammation. But none of these tests that a GP can do can by themselves diagnose Crohn's or colitis. For a diagnosis, you'd have to have an endoscopy at a hospital, which you'd be referred to. So the type of endoscopy showed by the diagram here on the screen is called a colonoscopy. And that's when they put a camera up your bum to look at the whole colon. But endoscopies there are other versions that don't go quite that far up. There are some which look at just the first section of the colon. And if you're having symptoms like nausea and vomiting, it would suggest that you might have disease in the upper part of your digestive system. So you might have something called an upper GI endoscopy, and that's where the camera goes through your mouth to look at the stomach and surrounding area. So more information about all the different tests you might have can be found on our website as well. So if after all those tests you are found to have a form of Crohn's or colitis, you'll likely be put on a course of treatment to get it under control. And so this will absolutely depend on you as an individual, how severe your condition is, and most importantly, where it is in your gut. So this list of treatments is absolutely not a hierarchy. It's not like someone will always start at the bottom and work their way up. So for example, if you have really severe Crohn's or colitis, you might be put on biologics straight away, or you might even need surgery straight away. But generally, if you have mild to moderate colitis, you'll probably start on a medication called 5-ASAs. And yes, your treatment should really depend on what fits with you as an individual. So if your inflammation is right down at the end of your digestive system in your rectum, for example, then it can be reached with topical medicines like enemas or suppositories, which you can do yourself and put them up your bum. So some of these medicine names you might recognize, because a few of them are available to treat axial SpA as well. So the anti-TNF medicines, infliximab, adalimumab, and golimumab can treat both conditions. So if you do have both Crohn's or colitis and axial SpA, your consultant might feel it's a good idea to recommend a medicine for you that can treat both conditions at the same time. So these are biologic medicines, and they're usually used for either more severe cases or cases that haven't responded to other treatments. And these, along with steroids and other immunosuppressants like azathioprine, they do suppress the immune system. So they work by taking your overactive immune system and dampening down the effects of that. And a really important treatment option to mention is also surgery. So surgery, the most common forms are usually to remove a really ulcerated part of the bowel and either join the healthy ends of the bowel back up together, which is known as a resection, or you might have something called a stoma. So if we can have the next slide, please. A stoma is an opening through the tummy, which is made during surgery, where the end of your bowel is brought outside of your body onto the surface of your abdomen. So then poo will pass out of this opening and into a disposable bag that's worn over the stoma. So you won't be opening your bowels in the toilet as per normal. So this might be an option for people if medicines aren't helping, or a severe complication has happened in the bowel, or if you're just feeling like medicines aren't the right path for you. It's of course a huge decision and can take a lot of time to adjust to, but many people do feel that once they have a stoma, they've got their lives back after the surgery and can start doing the things they were perhaps prevented from doing when their Crohn's or colitis symptoms were really active. And we have lots of information about living with a stoma on our website as well. So a few of you who have both conditions might be wondering how to manage both alongside each other. And I think the most important thing to say from the start is that you should, if you have Crohn's or colitis, avoid non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. So these are really commonly used in axial SpA, and they're really good at treating joint pain. So these are medicines like ibuprofen, but they're not recommended if you have Crohn's or colitis, especially if you're in a flare-up, as that can make this worse. So some alternative forms of pain relief would be good to discuss with your consultant. Other things to consider are that if you have two conditions, you'll probably be having lots more medical appointments than usual. So we do have an appointments journal to help you make the most out of your time with healthcare professionals and focus on what matters to you. And I know NASS have something similar as well. And then there are just some lifestyle things that can really help both conditions. For example, keeping active, been shown to really help fatigue and Crohn's or colitis, especially building up exercise gradually. Quitting smoking, always a good option when you have an inflammatory condition, and also prioritizing rest when you're feeling fatigued and minimizing stress as much as is possible. And it's also worth saying that steroids should be taken with great care, because they can increase the risk of osteoporosis, and that's obviously already a concern in axial SpA. So ideally, we'd want to make sure that someone isn't having more steroids than 1/4 a year. And when they are, it's really important to take vitamin D and calcium supplements to protect your bones. And we have information on our website as well about looking after your joints when you have Crohn's or colitis. So that will be helpful for joint pain that's not necessarily related to your axial SpA. So a little bit about us. So we're Crohn's and Colitis UK, and we're here for everybody who's affected by Crohn's or colitis. We fund vital research to drive pioneering research to discover better ways of managing Crohn's and colitis and one day find a cure. We work a lot with healthcare professionals to improve healthcare services and make sure everyone can get a timely and accurate diagnosis and get on the treatment that's right for them. We run lots of really innovative campaigns to break the silence around the conditions and raise vital awareness to change perspectives, policies and lives. And we support members through things like our Can't Wait card and Radar Key, which makes it easier to access toilets. So if you want to talk further to someone about what you're experiencing, then we're here for you. Our helpline is open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and outside those hours, you can always send an email and our dedicated team will get back to you as soon as possible. You might also be able to find the answers to your questions on our website. So our resources are the most reliable source of information on Crohn's and colitis. So you can be sure that the content is evidence-based and reliable. Yeah, that was a whistle-stop tour of Crohn's and colitis and what we do as a charity. So thank you for your time and happy to answer any questions.
Wonderful, thank you, Jaina. That was a really fantastic overview of the conditions, and from the comments coming in as well, everyone's found it really helpful. So for everyone watching live, thank you for joining us, and we'll go through and answer your questions now. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to pop them in the comments box and we'll make sure that we go through all of them. We've got, in fact, one really nice comment was from Jane, who doesn't have Crohn's or colitis herself, but she has friends who have the condition, so she was finding the presentation really helpful and interesting as well, so thank you.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, we often hear from people who want to know how to support their friends or family who have Crohn's or colitis, because it does affect every aspect of your life. So we do have resources for friends and family as well on our website.
Oh, that's really helpful to know, thank you. And we can pop any extra links in the comments afterwards, so we can signpost people to those. And Lizzie as well, she has AS, but she's awaiting investigations. I think she said she's got an endoscopy scheduled because she's getting symptoms of inflammatory bowel disease. So this has been really helpful for her as well to see sort of the different treatment options and things available as well.
Oh, that's good. Good luck for your endoscopy. Hopefully it's something slightly less serious, but if it is Crohn's or colitis, there is lots of support out there.
That's wonderful to hear. And we did have a question before the session or a comment from someone who has IBS diagnosed. For anyone who may be watching now who has IBS diagnosed, but they're wondering if it might be Crohn's or ulcerative colitis instead, what would you advise to anyone?
Yeah, so this is something we hear really commonly, so you're definitely not alone. So many people who have Crohn's or colitis tell us that they were diagnosed with IBS for many years before they were diagnosed with Crohn's or colitis. So what's really important is if you can get your GP to run a test for you called fecal calprotectin. And that's a really easy test where you just give a sample of your poo or stool, and then they test that for fecal calprotectin. And what that's looking for is if you have inflammation anywhere in your gut. And so if you have IBS, it's not an inflammatory condition. So we would expect if it truly is IBS that there wouldn't be any inflammation. But if your fecal calprotectin test does come back a little higher than average, then that's a really good sign that it might be Crohn's or colitis, and that can really help speed up the process and get you the right investigations to get a diagnosis. If your fecal calprotectin isn't high, but you still might have Crohn's or colitis, because it can absolutely vary, but it's a really good indicator.
Oh, that's great to know. That's a really kind of achievable first step for anyone who's wondering, and hopefully something that's relatively quick to get some answers and possible further investigations as well.
Yeah, hopefully.
Brilliant. And we also had a question from Laura, who shared that she's got microscopic colitis. This might be something that I can advise on, in terms of, she said that she's got lower back pain and she's currently waiting for investigations for whether she has axial SpA. So for Laura, I'll pop some links in the comments to some of our information about the kind of diagnosis process and where the referral should be sent to and everything. So it'll be helpful to see, you know, if it is that, and they can help with diagnosis too. We've got another question coming in as well. I've just seen Lindsay's commented saying she has both AS and Crohn's, and she sometimes wishes her rheumatologist and gastroenterologist communicated more. They're at different hospitals. Do you have any advice on how she can encourage this?
Yeah, it's really tricky when we know that services aren't as joined up as we'd like them to be. We have set out what really good care should look like in our IBD standards, and what healthcare professionals should be doing to meet those. So I can put some links up for you, because you can check if your hospital is where they are in terms of following the IBD standards. So that can be really helpful in pushing things along.
That'd be wonderful, thank you. Yeah, we can pop a reply straight in there as well, thank you. And we've got a question from Sarah. She said, I've been told for a long time I had IBS, but after going through diagnosis for AS, I was referred for investigations. She had a high fecal calprotectin test. But she said whenever she had investigations, her symptoms were minimal and nothing showed up on the scans. Is this common?
Yeah, unfortunately it can be, if your symptoms aren't too active at the time. We should still hope to see something there. So hopefully what they did in your endoscopy is to take some biopsies, because then they can look to see if there is inflammation that wasn't visible, but you can see it when you look under a microscope, see it at a microscopic level. Also, it might be that when you have an endoscopy, the endoscope doesn't quite reach where your particular inflammation is. So if you have Crohn's disease, your inflammation can be anywhere in the gut, from your mouth all the way down to your bum. So if your inflammation is just in a really tricky place in your small intestine, no endoscope is going to reach that, and so it's not going to be seen. So we would hope for a mixture of tests in that case, including MRIs or ultrasound, for example, to see if there is inflammation there.
Well, that's really helpful, thank you. Hopefully that will help Sarah see that, just check they're on the right track with that. She has said that she's on certolizumab for her AS, and the stomach symptoms she's been experiencing has subsided, but she still has issues when she has an AS flare. So hopefully they're on the right track with that.
Yeah, it would suggest then that they might be related, absolutely. So hopefully you can get some answers soon.
And I imagine heading to the link that you had on for the website on the joint pain section as well, that might have some good advice for that as well.
Absolutely.
And we've got a comment from Dale, our CEO, as well, saying thanks so much for sharing such helpful insights. It's really appreciated.
Oh, of course. Yes, I know. Obviously, axial SpA, just like Crohn's and colitis, are invisible conditions, and so it can be really hard dealing with both of those at the same time. So absolutely, we're always here for support.
Thank you. And do you offer much advice and support on your website about sort of the mental health and emotional aspect of Crohn's and colitis as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a publication on mental health and well-being. So that covers things like when you might be more likely to experience mental health problems in Crohn's or colitis, as well as how the two can be linked. We know there's a really strong connection between the gut and the brain. So it's definitely not uncommon to experience mental health issues. Some IBD services, the really lucky ones, will have psychological support within the IBD team. Others, you might be signposted to other forms of therapy. So we have information about all of those and what's been found to help with Crohn's or colitis on our website as well. So that there has been some limited evidence to show that mindfulness interventions can be really helpful, as well as a type of therapy called acceptance and commitment therapy. So yes, absolutely, it's not easy dealing with a lifelong condition, absolutely. So it's something we need to think about.
That's really helpful, and that's interesting to know as well, because we've done some mindfulness sessions and had a taster session for acceptance and commitment therapy, because lots of people with axial SPA find that helpful as well.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, so it's obviously awful dealing with two conditions at the same time, but there are lots of things that if you do for one of them, it will hopefully help the other one as well. So that's one of the slight silver linings.
Absolutely, yeah, no, that's really encouraging.
Yeah.
So I think we've covered all the questions that have come in so far. Was there anything else that you wanted to add? I know it's been a really helpful session and really detailed as well. Thank you.
Oh, good. No worries. I'm glad it was helpful. There's, as I said, there's lots more information on our website, and you can call our helpline if you have any specific questions.
That's wonderful, thank you. So for everyone who's watching, thank you so much for joining live and for asking your questions as well. I'll keep coming back over the next few days and just checking for any other questions and comments that come in, so we can always answer anything if you are catching up on this afterwards. We'll also upload it onto our website and our YouTube page as well, so if you head to My AS My Life, we'll upload the video there and a link to the Crohn's and Colitis UK website as well. So thanks again, Jaina, that's been really fantastic, and it's been great seeing lots of people watching and being able to answer their questions live.
Absolutely, thanks for having me, Zoe.
You're welcome. Take care, and yeah, hopefully have you again soon if we get more questions coming in.
Yes, absolutely, always happy to.
Wonderful. So thanks everyone, and I'll see you next week for our session on weightlifting, which is on Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. with Andrew McMillan. So keep an eye out over the weekend for our adverts for that session. Thanks again, Jaina. Take care.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.